where song ideas are going to come from, but when they present themselves to me, it's very obvious. And this one came from a pet store in Greenwich Village called La Petite Puppy. They sell puppies and they sell kittens. And you can only imagine what happened, that the pet store owner had to put up an 8-word sign. And as soon as I saw the sign, I knew it would be the title of my new song. If you're drunk, you cannot buy a puppy. Like, why would that be necessary in the 21st century? And where do you go from there? If you're tipsy, you should not purchase a pussycat. If you're stoned, you might think a spider monkey's a good pet. But when you sober up, you won't be thinking that. Think of this as a public service announcement. If you're in your cup stumbling along, despite the obvious thrills, if you're plastered to the gills, buying a puppy now is just plain wrong. And they got me thinking, what are other things you shouldn't do while you're drinking? If you're drunk, you should not get married. Doesn't matter if you're straight or you're gay. Las Vegas wedding chapels have ruined many happy couples. I'm sure many more got ruined there today. If you're schnockered, it's not the time to photograph. Then Twitter yourself in cotton underwear. When you're plastered to the gills, despite the obvious thrills, don't even do it on a dare. Oh, the list of things you should not do while drinking is a never, ever, ever ending one. But there are things you can do when you've had more than a few and you want to pursue a little fun. If you're drunk, it's a good time to spend money. Yes, the home shopping channel is the best. They got blowout deals on elastic waistband pants with matching turtleneck and scarf and hat and vest. Order one in every color of the rainbow, including fuchsia, puce, celadon, and winter white. When you're plastered to the gills, it magnifies the thrills to save so much money in one night. And if you're drunk, it's a good time for the tattoo parlor. Get a bloody painting scratched into your back. How about the name of your new lover? A single rose with the word mother. Or the Queen of Hearts smothering a one-eyed jack. Or better yet, how about a tattoo of a puppy? On your tummies you can pet it every day. When you're plastered to the gills, there's no describing the thrills of owning a puppy that will never run away or chew your new shoe. A puppy that will always, always stay. If you're drunk, you cannot buy a puppy. Let that simple phrase be your guide. Do you remember The Sopranos? The TV show, The Sopranos? Christopher sat on Adriana's puppy. The puppy's name was Cosette. Cosette died. Christopher was high when this transpired. Adriana fell into a free-falling funk. Little did she know, she'd soon get whacked by Silvio. That actor from Bruce Springsteen's band turned out to be a punk. Then Christopher got whacked too. That's what can happen to you if you buy a puppy when you're drunk. Now, I'm going to tell you a true story connected to that song. I was on a plane about a year ago, flying from New York to Chicago. And I was busy on my computer the whole time, and the woman sitting next to me was busy on her computer. We didn't talk the entire flight, and we're just about to land, and suddenly the plane took off and started to circle. You know how that makes everybody a little nervous. So we start nervously talking to each other. So I said to her, well, what kind of work do you do? And she told me she was a college student, and she asked me, what kind of work do you do? I said, well, I'm a singer-songwriter. And she said, well, what kind of songs do you write? So I said, well, here's an example. There's a pet store in Greenwich Village that put up a sign that said, if you're drunk, you cannot buy a puppy. And I thought that would make a great title. And she said, oh, that was because of my best friend, Whitney. I sat next to her best friend on an airplane. And she told me what happened Whitney was a college student. She got completely rip-roaring drunk, went into this pet store, bought the puppy, went home, woke up, sobered up, and said, "Oh, what was I thinking?" And took it back to the pet store and asked to give it back and get her money back. And the pet store owner called the police. And she was going to be arrested for animal endangerment for buying a puppy while drunk. So they had a big fight, and the police decided if she would keep the puppy, that they would not arrest her. And the pet store owner said, "If you keep the puppy, I'll put up a sign that says, if you're drunk, you cannot buy a puppy." So that's how it all happened. So by the time we landed, I showed her a link to a video of my singing it in a nightclub, and she called Whitney up, and she gave her the link, and Whitney watched it. And then I spoke to her on the phone, and she said, "Oh no, now everybody's gonna know about me." So she wants you to know, and I promised her I would say this after every song, every time I sing it, that she is so sorry she tried to give the puppy back. And she loves the dog more than anything in the world, because 2 years have gone by now, and she just wants you all to know that it has a happy ending. So aren't you glad? But what are the odds I would sit next to her best friend? And of all the songs I've ever written, I would mention that one to her. I know, it's a little spooky.